Left is best. Meanwhile, as Sean Hannity is basking in the glory of having been named by Michael Cohen, Alex Jones is in the midst of what appears to be an emotional breakdown. He is, as you know, very distraught, and maybe he's over it. The attack on Syria, he'd been stabbed in the back by Donald Trump, and now he's looking inward and backwards to his origins. How does a man who has now been betrayed by Donald Trump know that he is righteous? We go back in the Wayback Machine to when he was just 13 years old.
You know, when I was growing up in Rockwall, Texas, at that time the richest county in Texas, a bedroom community of Dallas, and every time I thought some hot 17-year-old when I was like 13 or 14 really wanted to date me, and I'd drive out to some big old mansion of theirs, and I mean real mansions, helicopter pads, private landing fields, you name it. God almighty.
Pause it. Now, I'm not from Texas, and I think Alex Jones and I are probably a similar age. Back in the 80s, were you allowed, could you drive at age 13? When he says, like, I drive out there, like, mommy would take me.
Alex Jones did.
In Texas, place like Texas, you might be able to get away with it.
Yeah, you might have been like,
I drive out there.
Mom, I need to go get some 17-year-old tail. If you could give me a ride. I'd like to get in there and do my business before my curfew. Thank you. I'd like to have sex with her on the helipad before I have to get home.
It's helicopter pads, private landing fields, you name it. God almighty, at the third or fourth time I'd been with them, they'd tell me, by the way, we worship this God, and we want you to come to this event. We want you to engage in this activity because Lucifer's really God. And, you know, I told people those stories when I first got on air 20 years ago, and it kind of sounded a little bit hokey, but now you see it all.
Pause it. I don't know if the old, I was 13 going to the mansions to meet the hot 17-year-old girls, and after the fourth or fifth date, they tell me they worship Beelzebub. I don't know. That's like hokey. I feel like hokey is not the way I would describe
Sounds like
that
a plot
story.
of a great 80s movie.
Yeah, so, you know, it's hokey, corny to hear that you're a Satan worshiper, and we're doing live killings of animals, farm animals.
Also, can I suggest? I also love the contrast.
Hokey,
like, on one
corny,
hand, there are these
goofy,
opulent multimillionaire mansion, totally basic, and these 17-year-olds are luring these 13-year-old boys into, and they're like,
not boys, just me.
Yeah, just him.
Yeah.
We've had sex a few times. It's time to go show you how the world works. And he's just like, no, I don't really want to hang out anymore. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, go do a show.
Yeah,
I love that. It's like there's no consequence for that.
Don't drop him from one of the helicopters.
Yeah, what happened to the
Well, let's hear the rest of the story. That could be.
But now you see it all over the mainstream media. And there's a spiritual
whoa. I'm sorry. We must have missed the whole part where we hear about the 17-year-olds praising what was it, Beelzebub, at the, okay, good.
Those stories when I first got on air 20 years ago, and it kind of sounded a little bit hokey, but now you see it all over the mainstream media.
All over the mainstream media.
And there's a spiritual component to this. It's not a power trip. They knew interdimensionally, because believe me, they weren't trying to get the average person to go do that. Everybody thought, like, why are you dating the head cheerleader or the head senior when you're a freshman in high school? Well, because, she was driving me out there in her $100,000 Mercedes, and that was 30-something years ago. Driving me out there in her $100,000 Mercedes, that'd be a $300,000 Maybach today, to try to get me into the cult. And then I was about 16 and got taken by a girl out to the lake and this big vineyard. It was way out in Hunt, way out outside Dallas, and these police cars pulling up, people getting out and saying, we're going to have a bonfire. Alex, don't be scared. And started seeing people putting black hoods on. These weren't KKK hoods. These were black hoods. And I remember saying, oh, my God. She's like, don't be scared. And I said, I'm not scared. I'm not part of this. And walking back on the road, and about 5 miles later, didn't have cell phones back then. I had like 10 miles to walk back. Police came and got me, said, boy, you've been drinking. We're taking you to jail. And then my family lawyer called my dad, and they said, Dr. Jones, you need to leave Dallas, or your son's going to be found dead hanging in a jail cell. Now, later, the last laugh happened when the sheriff and others got busted for narcotics. And Texas Monthly did a story about it.
All right, so basically, I didn't leave, and it turned out I was, in fact, drunk the entire time. It turned out that they were not actually a huge community of devil worshippers who just let me walk away.
I remember at sleepovers, there used to be like one kid that would say he had like a girlfriend in a small town.
Of course. On the East Coast,
her name's Linda. She's at summer camp. She's a total babe.
I've got a girlfriend. She's from France.
From
Canada. And
France is better.
Well, I went there. She flew me out there in a Lear jet. And I went in the Concorde. And, and people were like, why is Monique coming to pick you up in the Concorde to fly you over there? Because
her dad's the French president. That's just who he is.
You're 12 and she's a grown woman of 24. Isn't it weird? And I didn't think of it. Nothing but what Monique could tell was that I would later call for Sarkozy to be arrested, and she was part of it. She could see interdimensionally. Yeah, didn't want the Majority Report to talk about that. But fortunately for me, I was able to get on a commercial flight returning home because the Concorde was taken out of commission.
And then the French authorities were like, "Excuse me, sir, why are you trying to fly back on this commercial jet?"
And then
they brought me back to the Marseille.
That's right.
And then I was in this.
That's right. Then I actually stowed away on a merchant marine vehicle boat that was going. First, it was going to Algiers, and that is a totally different story. But just after Algiers, I made it home.
This might be the least realistic conspiracy theory he's given us yet, because if a 13-year-old boy in real life went somewhere with a hot cheerleader girl,
top cheerleader,
and
top
she was
captain
like,
cheerleader.
Just so you know, babe, I have been contacted through time by interdimensional reptilian creatures who know that you're going to grow up to become a really important freedom fighter or whatever. And there's Satan involved, but also I'm going to give you a blowjob. 13-year-old would be totally fine with that.
I'm totally down with that. That's cool. I'm fine.
You would not walk away.
Where do I get my black hood?
I imagine a 14-year-old Alex Jones at a sleepover being like, "Alex, you keep telling us about this super hot rich cheerleader that takes you in her Benz across Texas.
True.
Why aren't
true.
you still hanging out with her?" He's like, "Well, she turned out she's into Satanism, so I can't,
can't
hang out with her anymore."
That's the
Someday in the
origin
future.
That's the origin of his whole career. It's just cover for never meeting her. It's another one that turned out to be a Satanist.
That's
so
right.
You can't meet her either.
That's right. Yeah.
Almost exorcised her, but couldn't do it.
It's so bizarre. I thought we were all going to meet at the ice cream shop. I thought we were all going to meet at Friendly's with your girl. No, turned out last minute she's another Satanist. Goddamn son of a gun. Another one you can't meet. Heartbroken. Was really looking forward to taking you guys.
I couldn't do my homework last night because it turns out Satan was in the.
Where Jamie's right. Most 13-year-old boys, literally, you could kill somebody in front of them. They'd be like, I don't give a shit. Okay. That's totally negotiable. I can see how that might be where you were coming from. Can we do that other thing again, please? I have empathy with Owen because I was just thinking to myself, if I was named in a lawsuit because of you and I was sitting next to you at a round table and you were looking at me and you were like, because this is what Republicans do when they're in power. They fight on cultural issues.
Don't worry,
Michael. He's sitting there like, we're going to get sued out of existence, and he's crying about his wife.
Don't worry, Michael. I have spent the evening on a whiteboard where I have drawn out both the A, B, and C projections of Social Security.